we're welcoming for the 7th year in a row, Rob Walch of Today and iOS podcast is joining us. He's going to look at the state of iOS today, share with us some new tips and tricks, and we're glad to have him back. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. So this is probably the best weather of the 7 times for you guys. I know last year was brutal last year. So this was original logo said like Today an iPhone, and I actually have now updated my logo since the last WWDC to be this. So coming in with a little bit of that iOS 7 feel. Now, you know, it's funny. A lot of people have given Apple some grief about the new color scheme in iOS 7. I like it. But I mean, a lot of people are like, you know, what is Apple thinking with this color scheme? They've lost their attention to detail. They, you know, they're not the team they used to be. They don't look at things the right way anymore. But I think Apple has pretty good attention to detail when you look at it this way. So if any group here in the world should appreciate this logo and the new iOS 7, it should be you guys. Yeah, you know, and you have to give Apple some credit for making a radical change. They had 97% satisfaction rate with iOS 6, 73% very satisfied, versus just like 49% with Android. So Apple goes, hey, with 97%, we want that other 3%, so we're going to radically change things. Thanks to Peter for sending me the video from last year. So what I did this time, like I did last year, is I looked at last year's video and I said, how did I do in my predictions when I talked to you guys last year? And the first few I missed. I said last year I was saying, oh, Apple was going to do 35.5 million because I came in right before the conference call, and they actually did like 20, I think it was like 28 million or something like that. It was way off. I thought iPad sales would be 17.5. They were much below, or they were actually above that. Then I said, guarantee the new iPhone will not be the iPhone 5. Missed that a little bit. But I did say it would be LTE, it would have a metal back, it would be 4-inch screen. I said it Lightning dock, I hope not, but probably would have it. And then iPad mini, I said that would be out. And I said the iPhone would launch October 1st, plus minus 10 days, and it did launch 9 days before October 1st, so I hit that window. Just made it. And then at the end of the thing, there was a conversation, which I thought was really interesting, was people were, what about privacy in China? I said, oh, don't worry about China, don't worry about China. And then I made an offhand comment, you should worry about the NSA and Google. And I was like, yeah, nailed that one.
Heard from them.
Yeah. No, luckily that video is not online, so that's why I'm actually here today.
They have cameras on campus. Yes, we scan.
But this year, Apple did make their announcements, quarterly call yesterday. How they did 31.2 million iPhones sold last quarter, which is pretty good. I think the analysts were predicting 26 million. I had it 28.5, so they came in well above that, pretty much above every analyst's expectation. So iPhone sales really well. To date, there's over 387 million iPhones that have been sold. It's a lot of iPhones. I have 3 of them here, but one more at home. I forgot the one. But there's quite a bit. Now, they didn't hit on their iPad sales. They were 14.6. So iPad sales were down. They had done 17 million the quarter before, or the year before, right here. I was thinking it would be about 16.5, 16.75. So they were below that. Of course, all the press, what do they concentrate on? Not that they blew away their iPhone sales, but it's iPad sales are sinking. That's like over half of the reports I've seen since the call have something to do about negativity towards iPad sales. Now, Apple did say that, hey, We didn't launch a new iPad last quarter like we did the year ago. We didn't put anything into the channel inventory. We actually took 600,000 out. So if you add the 600,000 that they took out of inventory, that brings it up closer. And if you take the 1.5 million they put in, there was only like a 2 or 3% difference in iPad sales year over year, which isn't bad for considering they didn't launch anything. 155 million iPads. So a lot of iPads have been sold already. One of the biggest complaints too when I read some of these articles is people are like, you can't use your iPad for your day-to-day work. The screen is too small. You don't want to use it. No one's going to use, as their computer with a screen that small. Really? Well, it's hard to see here, but that's an Apple Mac, SE, and the screen size is a little bit larger than the Mac SE. So this is laid right over the front of it. Sorry, this.
The only positive rebuttal I have to that is back then that's what they sold. Everything was that big.
Yeah, but people were able to do it.
We all use that thing daily.
Yeah. The screen is as big as how far away you put it from yourself.
Tell all the doctors in hospitals, doctors' offices that are using iPads.
Yeah, it's not. A lot of people, even my mother, who's over 70 years old, she has a MacBook and an iPad, and she's saying, I'm having an issue. I'm checking the email. I'm like, well, are you on the computer or the laptop or the MacBook or the iPad? Almost all the time, she's on the iPad when she can't get to something. And interesting, this is for the last 9 months, all of this stuff, the hullabaloo about Apple. I mean, I haven't been around Apple with this negativity around it since the 90s. So, I mean, you guys haven't heard anything like this around Apple in the last 9 months, 10 months, how negative the press has been. Been really beating up Apple, and it's shown in the stock price. I mean, the stock price in the last 9 months, Apple's down 30%. Now, today was a nice jump. This chart was pulled a week ago. Microsoft here, although there was a drop right when Microsoft announced their numbers after having to write off 900 million worth of Surface RTs. Not that I gloat in other people's misery, and then here's Google, and you look at how much Google's up, how much Microsoft's up, how far Apple's down, and you think Apple's in a tailspin. You think, oh my God, what's going on with the revenue? What's going on with the sales? I want to put this into perspective between these three companies. This is calendar year, not the fiscal years, because that gets confusing, because everybody's on a different one. But calendar year, Google has had $28.1 billion in revenue this year. Microsoft has had $39.7 billion in revenue this calendar year. The iPhone, 41.1. That's just the iPhone. And then when you look at Apple as a whole, 78.9 billion. So this is what, 41, that's 40%, 46% more revenue for the iPhone than Google. So when you hear all the press and everything about Apple down and that, most of them don't know what they're talking about. Well, I have to run this slide again just so it's in the video. Whoa. Hey, when you got Keynote, they have some great animation tools in there. So yeah, on my show, if you listen to my show Today in iOS, I do dig at Google a little bit. I know there's someone here with Google Glass. I think that's going to be a miserable failure overall. Sorry, it's just not, I don't see everyday use of it. But here's what I love about iOS and Android. When you look at actual use case, and this is what really matters, Apple's talked about the latest version, 93% of iOS users are on the latest version of iOS versus 38% for Android users. That's a big deal when you're a developer. And on top of that, I will have to say that 93% for Apple, that's probably about the highest it'll ever be. It'll never get that high again because you're going to start seeing more fragmentation as we move on. iOS 7 will not work on the 3GSs. So next year that number will be lower. podcast downloads, when people actually, as a podcaster, that's important to me. It's a 5-to-1 ratio of podcast downloads, iOS versus Android. Web traffic, 2.6 to 1 ratio, iOS to Android. Enterprise use, 1.8 to 1. App revenue, that's a real important one as an app developer. 3.7 to 1, iOS versus Android. And I think this next slide here from Scott Johnson, a friend of mine, I think this sums it up pretty well. The difference between iOS and Android users. 99 cents, no brainer. 99 cents, F that. That's your Android users. They're not going to pay for anything. They just don't. So past 12 months since I was here, these are, I would say, some of the bigger changes that have happened. Obviously, the iPhone 5 came out, the iPad mini, iPad 4th gen, iPod Touch 5th gen. The iPhone's now at T-Mobile. I think those are some of the bigger ones. iOS 7 beta, yes, I put that in skinny font on purpose. Now, these other ones are not so positive. Apple Maps had a bad year on Apple Maps side. The stock price drop. And death and taxes. Death being the electrocution, that girl that just got electrocuted in China. But that was a third-party charger. Shocking. Oh, too soon? Too soon? Oh, sorry.
What's the story of that?
Oh, you didn't hear about that? A girl in China had an iPhone in charging, and she went to answer it after getting out of the bathtub. So she gets out of the bathtub to answer it wet, and she got electrocuted and died. And it was a third party. Well, what appears to be, it was a third party charger. Yeah, so. And I actually said on the show before they did the investigations, like, there's no way that the Apple charger did that. Because if you actually looked at the Apple charger, I'm an electrical engineer, if you actually looked at the Apple charger, it's designed really, really well. I mean, it's like a 50% above where it needs to be on spacing for electronics, and there's just no way that you could have that in charging. Now, you have to remember, too, in China, they work off 220 and they don't have GFI. Yeah, so when you're doing 220, you're wet, and you've got a charger, and the water just rolls down your arm, down the cord, and then in. And just, so it was tragic, but it wasn't Apple's fault. But the taxes, I think Apple's getting a bum rap on that. I think Apple has gotten beat up on the taxes. When you actually look at it, it's not that they didn't pay U.S. taxes. They paid all their U.S. taxes. They just paid less taxes in some European areas because of the way the European laws are written. But anyway, that was, this is what was in the headlines most of the year. Well, this was because of the headlines, but this was the big one. I still believe an iOS device is a great creation device. Some artwork some of my listeners sent in the past year. I did a slide like this last year, so I went through and picked some. This one here was done on an app. It's called Foster, like poster, but Foster, P-H-O-S-T-E-R, which is a pretty cool app. This was done with the app Pop a Graph, and you use that to remove the color. This is black and white, and it was a color photo. And someone found a building that looked like the letter T. So for my show, TII, I always have them do TII. Someone found a photo of me somewhere on the web, and that's me, I guess. And every one of my episodes has different artwork for each episode, and I have the listeners send it in. So if you actually look at the episode I put up yesterday, this is the artwork for the show now. So that was the app overgram to put that in there. But yeah, someone sent that in about 3 months ago. I go, gee, I wonder which episode I should put that on.
Did you thank Tony?
It was actually, I don't think it was someone from this group. It was a teenager. His name, Daniel is his name. Yeah, as a podcaster, if you ever podcast, most important thing you can do as a podcaster is befriend any teenagers that, they say they're a teenager when they connect with you. Befriend them because they have lots of free time in the summer to do stuff, and you want them to promote you, not dog you. So, again, I went with the thin font here for iOS 7, so I apologize for anyone in the back there. But these are some of the new features, what was new in iOS 6 in the past year. Siri for the new iPad, Passbook app, which I've never used. Apple Maps with Flyover, which I've never used. The turn-by-turn I've used. fragmentation was a big thing last year. A lot of different devices had certain levels. So now Apple's before it used to be pretty much any feature was on any iOS device it supported. With iOS 6, it really started fragmenting. That covers over to iOS 7. I think the biggest change iOS 7 is that it's flat, skeuomorphic, non-skeuomorphic design. So they got rid of all the cute elements. If you like those elements, the felt on the game table and the spinning wheels in the podcast app or the notepad yellow. And I'll show some of that here, some slides. iTunes Radio is new, which is a lot like another service out there. Control Center, which is what everyone was hoping for, that you could have better controls, and I'll show that here in a second. Filters for cameras and photos, and my comment when I put the show up was like, "Hey, Craig, 2010's calling. Thank you." A little late, I guess. AirDrop, which will only work in the iOS 5 and the latest iPad, so you actually have to have the latest iPad. So again, this is one of those ones that won't even work on the 4S. FaceTime audio calls, Find My iPhone, activation lock. To me, the best new feature in iOS 7. Because this has been a really big issue. When I say death and taxes, the other one I could talk about with death was there's been people killed getting their iPads or iPhones stolen. The kid in Las Vegas was one example when two guys tried to grab his iPad. He was like 15 years old. His dad had just given it to him 2 months before as a birthday present. He fought. They dragged him under the SUV and he died. The woman was knocked down the flight of stairs and died in Chicago. So unfortunately, there's been a few cases in the past year where people have died or gone to the hospital because someone was stealing their iOS device, as they call it, Apple picking. Activation lock will go a long way to get rid of that. iOS in the car was one of the things that was announced. I still don't get that. I've tried to go back and look over the presentation a few times. Preview open apps. So you can now, and I'll show a screenshot of that. Before, when you wanted to see what apps you had open, you double tap the home button and it would show them at the bottom, but it just show you the icon. Now you can actually see a preview of the app that's open in a screenshot. It's nice. Phone text, FaceTime blocking. This was one that I've had a lot of listeners wanted this one, where you're able to now, when you break up with someone, probably by text, block their texts. It's over, and then you block them. Folders, it can now have lots of apps. You're not limited to how many apps you can put in your folders anymore, which is nice because now I have 7 different folders for games can be one folder. 3 folders for photo apps are now one folder. So that was nice. I mean, when you look at that here, how it works, this is iOS 7 here for you. You cannot change the color of the folder. The color of the folder actually changes based on what you have for a background image. So if this was a different color background image, the color of the folder would be slightly different, but it changes on all of them. So unfortunately, it really would have been nice, and I hope they do it in the future, where you can set different folders, different colors. This way you know, hey, my blue folders are this, and my red folders are that. Not there yet. But when you open it up, now you can have a lot of different pages inside a folder. So these are games, and yes, I have kids. Where's Perry, Wetwater, and that stuff. So you can tell.
Can you only have 3 rows in a folder then?
Now folders are on the I was going to put iOS 7 on my iPad. I was going to do it on Saturday, and a little problem happened at Apple Developer Center. If you haven't heard, they got hacked on Thursday. Yeah, so Apple's Developer Center got hacked on Thursday because my wife didn't want me to put iOS 7 on her iPad yet. So I said, okay, I'll wait until the weekend before. So I'll wait till last minute. So I couldn't put it to see how it works on the iPad. But on the iPhone, it's 9 apps per page in the folder, and you can have, I believe, as many pages as you want. Now, you can actually have 15 pages of apps, 15 home screen pages, too, on the iPhone. So it used to be 11.
That means they've actually removed a row vertically and horizontally.
This is just, mind you, this here is a folder. So right now, these two are this folder here. When I go into my games folder, I've now moved all my games into one folder, and I've got 4 different pages of games. Now, this phone doesn't have nearly all my apps on it, so it's more of my play phone.
You get to have a nice way of the game.
Yeah. So,
I'm
but
just
it's.
noticing that mine, I've got it's 4x4 and this is 3x3. So
Are you on iOS 7?
no, I'm
Okay. In the folder, yeah, in the folder it did change because before the folder it would have been 4x3, and or 4x4, I guess, and now it is 3x3. But you have multiple pages. You can have a lot of pages of that. Before you were limited to how many you could fit in an individual folder, and it was one screenshot and that was it. So it was whatever 16 you could fit in there on the iPhone, and now you can have a lot more. So to me, that to me is one nice feature because, again, that was just an annoyance having to have a lot of different folders for different utility stuff and games. This one is what I think most people were asking for, and that's what it is. It's basically a utility folder, which is nice, and you get to it simply by swiping up. And then you can turn your flashlight on, which is really what you want it for anyway, and the calculator. But you also have control here for AirPlay. You've got control for the brightness, the Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, airplane mode. So a lot of the things that people wanted, reasons that they jailbroke, SPS settings was a key app. This takes in a lot of that. So that was nice to finally see that. It's one of those ones, thank you, Apple. Wanted that before, but we'll take it now. One of the hidden ones, when you go to iOS 7, is if you wanted to find Spotlight, you go to the last home screen and you would swipe to the right and it would pull it up. Now, regardless of what home screen you're on, you drag down on the icons, not at the top, but near, like right here, you just drag down and then it pulls up Spotlight search. So you don't have to go all the way back to the home screen. So it makes it easier to do searching when you're in the iPhone. So I like that feature. Some comparisons of what it used to look like, what it looks like now. This is for the other key feature, which is not to be, when you're pulling down, if you pull down all the way from the top, now this is Notification Center. So this is Notification Center currently, and this is iOS 6. This is Notification Center iOS 7. And you've got Today, All, and then Missed, which is some nice features there. Again, they've gone flatter. They got rid of this nice little bezeled look. They've Ived it, I guess is what they're calling it. No, Wozniak's here. Did he have any comments on iOS 7? No.
They should still put iTunes on Android.
Yeah, probably won't happen. If you click All, this shows you here, and then if you click Missed, and then you can tap on an event, and this is what the event looks like. Hopefully, obviously, I didn't miss it. I'm here. But this just shows something that was just a reminder for me to make sure I did the presentation. So again, they've gotten rid of a lot of the elements around it, fluff, and gone flatter. This was, again, if you double tap the home button, you want to force quit. This is if you want to force quit an app. You would double tap, and then you'd hold the app down, and then it would wiggle, and you'd close it out. Now what you do is you double tap, and you can see a preview of the app of what's up there. And you can swipe through. And the other nice thing about it is if you're in an app, you happen to be in an app that, I can get into one here. I think this one will do it. There we go. If you're actually, there you go. It'll actually go landscape mode now too. So you can preview in landscape mode. If the app was opened in vertical mode, it'll show it sideways, but at least you can do it either way. Which is nicer if your device is docked. If you happen to have an iPad and it's docked, so, you don't have to rotate it over. Just a nice touch. One of the nice new ads, we guess you call it, or services that was rumored about. Oh, by the way, to force quit, you now just swipe up. So you just swipe up and then the app goes away. So it's no longer, you don't hold it down and hit a button. You just go and find the one you don't want and you swipe up and it goes off. So that's how you quit them. iTunes Radio, which is nice when it's working. it's in beta, so give them, it's but here's a screenshot. Oh wait, no, that's not, that's Pandora. Wait a second, there we go. There's iTunes Radio. Works exactly like Pandora, so really not any difference that I could tell. You go and you find an artist that you like, and you click on them, and then they play similar music to that artist. So just the same, if you like Pandora, then you'll like iTunes Radio. Camera controls changed a little bit. Old controls, new control. You've got video, photo, square. If this was a iPhone 4S that I was using this on, I would also have panorama. And you can actually, what's nice is you can do panorama for your home screen. And then you can move around and see your home screen as you move around. Little things there. Look at this, 80s. So some weather here, the old weather app, the new weather app. My favorite feature of the new weather app is if you click right here, it puts all your cities together. So it's like you have a little world clock. So if I have people that I have to call and I'm not sure what time it is and I'm sending an email, I just put their city in, and now it tells me, okay, Tel Aviv is going to be 5:03 when it's this time. Cool. I know how many hours difference it is. Especially when the times change, it makes it nice. Stock app. Yes, I had to do that one today. In case the company I work for, we changed our name. So if you're wondering why I'm following a stock by the ticker symbol FU, that is the ticker symbol for the company I work for. So I have the coolest ticker symbol name of anybody. No, it used to be my company's ticker symbol was WZE, and they'd be like, "Oh, let me write that down." And now I'd be like, "Yeah, ticker symbol. You don't need to write it." I'm like, "Trust me, it's FU." Yeah.
Or FU.
Yeah. That's our spin-off company is FUTU. Yes, I kid you not. So yeah, that's the company I work for, and the company that broke off from us. So these are companies I own stock in. So I own FU and FUTU. Yeah.
They blew it up.
Now we merged with a Chinese company, and I guess Fu is Fu means good luck in China. So when they found out that ticker symbol was available, they got all excited. We had emotional reaction too. Yeah, it was like, really? I have to go into Apple and tell them that's our ticker? Okay. There's really not much difference between the two. Again, it's just little changes. One difference is here you can see 4 stock symbols. Before you could see 5. So that's actually something that went away. Going sideways, again, not really any difference. The calendar, old look, new look. Again, pretty flat, get rid of some of the items. One thing that I don't like about the new calendar is, this is the old calendar. When you went to month mode, it would tell you what was going on for the day you selected right here. That's gone. So that's actually, I don't mind if you want to flatten things up, that's fine, but don't take away a feature.
There's a lot of white space they could have left out.
Uh-huh.
Across the board.
Yeah, they can easily have scrunched this up. To fit this in.
Would it have more space on an iPhone 5 screen?
It might. I haven't looked at it. Yeah, I don't have an iPhone 5 to look at it yet. But
How do you navigate through the months since there's no left or right arrow?
you tap here. That gets you to the year, and then you go and pick the month. If you want to get this view here, you actually have to click the magnifying glass, and then that brings you to this view, which I do like this a little better, which is then you can see what's today and what's tomorrow, and you can scroll up and down through your days.
So you can't just swipe left and right like picture.
No, here's another one where you've lost features was in the Notes app. This is old, this is new. On the old, you could scroll through your notes. Now, if you want to scroll through your notes, you have to hit back here, then find the note, then tap on it. So if you wanted to move to the next note, you have to tap here, then select the note, then come to, you have to do a couple of actions.
The change in the grid 4x4 to 3x3 makes me think there's a device with a smaller screen.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm not one to believe there's going to be a small. I don't know.
I don't know,
Yeah.
either that or they're taking features away so they can add them back in iOS 8.
Yeah. That is I would go with that. Yeah. Yeah. Now the recording app is a little bit better. This was the old recording app, and when you were recording, this is what you saw, and you had a little monitor here. Now when you're recording, you actually see the waveform as you're speaking, so you can actually see that it is recording and not hope that it's recording just because it's red here. The other nice thing here, when you're done recording, before you'd hit the button to stop, and that would be it. You'd be done, or it'd be paused, and you'd be like, all right, what's next? Now when you click done, it actually says, it takes you to a place to put a name in for the recording, which is like, wow, novel concept. But yeah, that always bugged me about the Memos app, which is if you wanted to name it, you had to go, and it was a lot of steps you had to go through to name it something.
Is there no pause on the?
No, the record button is a pause, and then done is done. Yeah. And then you can actually edit now, so you can trim out the beginning and ending. It's a crop tool. It's not inline editing. You take off the beginning, take off the end, but it's not where you can actually do real editing, taking out ums and uhs. So, so these are to me on iOS 7. These are some of the apps that are used. What I consider the most. There's a lot of ones. I've got a phone running here, iOS 7. If you want to see it afterwards, but those are the ones that I think are most of what people are going to see in their interaction with iOS 7 to start with. Last time I did mention, I put up a little screenshot here showing an exclusive iPad mini shot, which was really just my hand and on an iPad 3rd gen and my son's hand on an original iPad to make it look like it was smaller. And yes, Apple did release it and did call it an iPad mini, and this is the iPad mini and the new iPad. And a lot of people give the iPad mini grief because it's not Retina display, but if you've ever used an iPad mini, it doesn't need to be. And I do not believe it'll be, so here's one that I'll go back and see if I'm right or wrong. I don't believe the iPad mini that'll be 2nd gen one will be a Retina display. I don't think there's a need for it. I think it would add weight or decrease battery life. And I think right now the weight of the iPad mini, it's a pound less than the regular iPad. It's 0.68 pounds versus 1.5 pounds. That's a huge difference.
The new Nexus 7, did that have Retinas in there? 7-inch will have the pressure.
I don't think. Well, I mean, I really don't think Apple gives a crap what anyone else does, and especially when you consider the fact. I mean, especially on the tablet side. I mean, here you've got 84% of U.S. tablet traffic yesterday was announced by Chiquita. 84% of tablet traffic is on an iPad, is one of the iPads. As Tim Cook said in the call, people may be buying them. We really don't know because nobody announces sales numbers. They just announce shipment numbers. But people may be buying them, but they ain't using them. They're definitely not using them. So I don't think Apple really cares what Nexus 7 is doing. And Microsoft did a $900 million write-down on the Surface RT tablet. And anybody that's sold any number like the Amazon Kindle, they're not making a penny on the thing. So I don't think specs that are released by others will influence Apple, which is why there was no NFC last year on the iPhone. I mean, if they cared about that, they would have put NFC in the iPhone last year. Now, I think it'll be this year. Here. Let's see. Here's a little video. Here's what Apple thinks.
iPad was designed to be very powerful and very capable. So our goal was to take all of the amazing things about the full-size iPad and pack them into a product that is so much smaller, but not as small as the iPod Touch. And that's exactly what the iPad mini is. Wait, the iPad mini is not the iPod Touch. I don't want that to sound confusing. They have the same processor. They are different. The iPod Touch has a Retina display.
So yeah, it was one of the funnier videos I found out there. But yeah, the iPod mini, I just don't see it going with Retina. I don't think it needs it. If you use it, it's really a nice device. So what was new last year on the iPad side? You had the 4th gen since we talked, and the iPad mini, the 4th gen really was just updating the processor and putting a lightning port on it. It's stayed at 1.5 pounds, 1.44 pounds versus the iPad mini, which is 0.68. They both are LTE, both Bluetooth. The iPad 4th gen goes to 128 gig and has a gig of RAM. This is 512 and 64. If you want to know what's going to be in the iPad 2, look over here to these specs. So, the RAM will go up, the overall storage will probably go up, but I don't think it'll go Retina yet. This one has a quad-core graphics, again, which it needs because of the Retina display. Now, for the new iPad, I think this is probably what it's going to look like. I've seen different rumors out there. I think the new full-size 5th gen iPad will be this. It'll have the smaller bezel, similar to the iPad mini. It'll look a little bit like the iPad mini. It'll be lighter. It'll probably be closer to a pound, maybe just a tad over, but right around a pound. And it will be with the FireWire port, of course. And if the rumors are right, it'll go stereo speaker, but who knows? I guess the only way to really take advantage of stereo speakers, though, is to do this, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense if it is. Now, I was looked around, and for the worst, because everyone's beating up Apple, so I had to find what I thought was the worst beat up Apple commercial out there. So let me play this. Okay, so about the only thing I want to do is eat an apple and watch the Waltons, maybe. But it doesn't make me want to buy an S4. And speaking of the iPhone, I had this slide up here last year showing what I thought was going to be the iPhone 2012. This was a picture that was actually, I went back and looked when this was leaked. It was leaked at the end of May. And this wound up being, so it was like May 29th when this one hit the web. And this one obviously wound up being what the iPhone 5 is. So this picture got it right, and they got it right as early as May. So that just gives an idea of how early some of these leaks come out nowadays. Ultimately, what was new to the iPhone 5, it went to the A6 processor. It was still a dual core. It went up to 1 gig of RAM. Front-facing camera went to 720p, but it stayed at 1080p on this video out. The talk time stayed the same. It added T-Mobile 7 months later. Front-facing camera went to 1.2 megapixels. A sapphire lens cover. You could take photos during video. LTE. The new case, the 4-inch, improved video stabilization, in-cell touch, and the new earbuds, and then the 9-pin dock connector. What I hear a lot of people complain about is they say the S-level updates aren't the big updates, and I actually have gone back and looked, okay, what's been different in each generation? And when you actually look at it, the 3GS was a huge upgrade over the 3. The 3G versus the original iPhone, the only thing that was different was it added 3G in a new case. And the new case wasn't as good as the original. So the 3G versus the 3GS was a much bigger upgrade. Between the iPhone 4 from the 3GS to the 4 and then the 4 to the 4S, the difference, or how much more you got for those two different devices, the 4S was just as big an update as the 4. I know a lot of people don't believe that and don't want to say that, but it is. And the 4S update compared to the 4 is a much bigger update than the 5 was compared to the 4S. And I, being the nerd I am, I went through and put a score for each different element and said, okay, how much are they worth for these different pieces? And when you add up the scores, I was like, wow, okay, I got plus 30 for the 4, and a plus 29 for the 4S, and only a plus 25 for the 5. And if you went with the dock connector, I left it at a 0. If you put that in as a minus, because you had to get all new accessories, then it really blew it away. So I believe that the 5S is going to be a much bigger upgrade than people are giving it credit for. I really think when it's all said and done, people are going to look at it and go, wow, this is actually going to be worth upgrading for. What do I think the 5S will, why do I, this 5, I do believe it'll be the 5S, just now that Apple's doing it. This is a leaked photo. It looks like it's going to be a dual flash. So expect to see a dual flash and expect to see better pictures in low light. So, I mean, those I think are something that you can expect. I think NFC is going to be there this time around. So those are some of the things I expect to see. But I think we're also going to see the lower cost iPhone, and I think it'll be in 2013. I think it'll be before the end of the year. These are pictures that are out there. There's actually some videos now of people playing with these. This is what the next iPhone, the lower cost iPhone is going to look like. And what likely is going to happen this fall is when the iPhone 5S comes out, it'll be the iPhone 5S. The iPhone 5 will still be available for a period of time. The iPhone 4 and 4S will go. So no more 30-pin dock connector devices. And at the low end will be this device. So this will replace what would have been the 4S. So you'll have all 4-inch devices, all FireWire or Lightning devices. So this is what I think you're going to see here in the fall. This is going to be what Apple is going to go after, the lower cost BRIC nations and the lower cost markets in the US. Now, again, lower cost for Apple doesn't mean low cost. You have to, so it's not, this isn't something that's going to unsubsidize retail for less than $300. You're looking at $300 at the lowest, probably $350, somewhere in that range. But I think this is what you're going to see released this fall, along with the iPhone 5S. And they may even get rid of the iPhone 5, so that might be just these two items to choose from now. Now, I do think they'll probably keep the 5 around for that $99 version, and this is your free phone when you get a subsidized. But I think this is what you're going to see come the fall, and we'll see how horribly wrong I was next year. But the 5S versus the 5, this is what I think will be new. It'll go to the A7 processor, 4 cores, 2 gig of RAM. But here's my prediction. I haven't read this one yet. This is me, so we'll see how really horrible. I think it's going to support 4K video. And I got that from the WWDC when they announced the new Mac Pros. What did they announce? They support 4K video. And I think an Apple TV, when Apple releases an Apple TV, they're not going to release a 1080p TV. The 1080p market's done. So the only thing that makes sense for Apple to release a full-on TV would be a 4K TV. And if you're going to release a 4K TV, you better have 4K video for it. And how do you get 4K video for it? People shooting home videos. So I think you're going to see video support out for 4K and video recording for 4K on the 5S. And if I'm wrong, 4 years from now, I'll pull this clip out and put it up in a 4 years from now presentation when I'm right. Because eventually it'll be right. Just early. But I think it'll be there for this year, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. Now I'll edit it and that'll sound good. China Mobile will be around. I think the camera will go to 12 or 13 megapixels. This is a common rumor. The dual LED flash, I consider that a done deal since there's already pictures of that. And that'll do for better low-light pics. The fingerprint scanner, they bought the company. They don't buy many companies, so most likely that'll get rolled in. NFC, the multiple color cases, which really shouldn't be under the 5. It'll be the lower cost iPhone, which I kind of jokingly call iPhone Air. So we'll see what they call it. I call it iPhone Air. And then improved LTE, but in a 128 gig version. You'll need a 128 gig version for the 4K video.
How would they be improving the LTE?
It actually works in most countries.
Oh,
That would be what I would consider improved LTE. That it actually works where people have what's called LTE in other countries. So yeah. Kickstarter, the Pebble was the big one last year. It's finally shipping. This is actually now in Best Buy. So that went from Kickstarter to Best Buy, so that was successful. I do believe eventually Apple's going to have an iWatch. I believe they were going to have an iWatch last year, so don't put that, weigh that where you want to. I thought it was going to launch last year, but I think they'll launch it this year, an iWatch. I think the iWatch from Apple will be a combination of basically the Fitband from Nike and the Pebble. So you take the two, combine the features from both, and that'll be what Apple offers. Some other Kickstarter projects that I've actually funded a couple this year. This one I like. It's called Recap, which allows you to record. So you plug it into the top of into your iPhone jack, and then you take a line out and go right to your computer, and then you can record calls. So NSA Lite, whatever you want to call it. So that's a nice one project, especially as a podcaster, just to record, especially if I'm going to be doing I'll be able to do now audio calls with iMessenger, or with FaceTime. So I can do FaceTime audio and record the audio out. So it should be pretty good audio for interviews for a show.
could you do that with the splitter now?
Yeah, but you get feedback. So you have to have isolation. It has to be done right. So supposedly this guy's done the isolation right so that you don't get the feedback in there. We'll find out. It's one of those ones where as a podcaster, and I do a show on podcasting too, I kind of had to buy it just, one, because I talked about it on the show, but I needed to buy it just to test to see if it really does work, because I get that question all the time from podcasters, how do I record phone calls? This is another one out. This is a hand crank charger. So it has a battery on it, but you can also, if you're out at a trade show or someplace where there's not a power supply and you run out of power, you can just crank it up. You're on a plane, you can crank it up, and you don't have to worry about running out of power anymore. So, and when the end of the world zombie apocalypse comes, I will still be able to play Angry Birds on my phone.
Don't have anywhere to call, but
Get the cell sites up.
Yeah, well, I can play Angry Birds. I don't have to make a phone call, but yeah. Or try to get to level 60 on Candy Crush. This one is actually still going on. So if you guys want a Kickstarter project, I thought this was an interesting one. It's a flexible keyboard with nice sized keys that give good tactile feedback that when it's folded over is less than the dimension of the iPad mini length and width. So this shows a dimension here to the iPhone 4, but it's neat because it folds over and you can stick it in your pocket and have a nice little keyboard with you. And I think it's $59 and it's called My Type, and it's in Kickstarter right now until the end of the month. So I want to make sure I at least showed you one that was still available. Some other accessories this year. One of my favorite ones as a podcaster is the iRig MicCast, and I got it here in my little caffeine mint can. So that's how big it is, and it's nice. It just plugs right into the top of your iPhone. It gives really good audio. And so because you can do that, it makes it nice. You can podcast right from your iPhone with this and another app I'll talk about in a second. So one of my more favorite accessories. This is another one. This is a robot ball. I heard there's one around here, but not. One of the big things I think that's changed, and it has to, maybe that's why Apple went to the Lightning port. Everything's gone Bluetooth. This is a Bluetooth speaker. This is a Bluetooth speaker. This to me is probably the loudest Bluetooth speaker I've heard, and this one's called the Rocksteady XS. This to me is the best looking one, and it's designed where you put your iPad right in here, and there's a little kickstand, and you can put it on and have it like that. But it's also nice because it works with your MacBook, and there's even a notch here, so you can put this right here with the notch facing you, and then your camera's not covered. But if you want a good-looking one, this is one of the nicer ones, and this is their packaging. So those guys did a good job with that. This is called the Sound Cylinder by Definitive Tech. I met these guys at CES. I was at CES and came across them, and they sent me one. So it was nice. I won't be giving this one away. I like this one. This one my son loves because it's so loud. So he streams Pandora from his iPhone to it all the time. But what I really like about this one, the battery, the lithium-ion battery, is just a standard cell phone battery. So if it ever runs out, you just pop it out and you can put a new battery in. And it also works as a charger. So if this is charged up, you can also take it from the USB and charge your iPhone from it. So it's got some nice features to it. And luckily it has a line in because I couldn't get Bluetooth to work with everybody's Bluetooth. And I don't know, I couldn't get them to work today, but normally Bluetooth works fine with my laptop, but not today. But yeah, it's nice. These are two of my favorite ones. I've looked at a bunch of different speakers this past year, but these are the two that I like the best. This one for the looks, this one for the functionality. And the sounds on this one's pretty good too. App-wise, I talked about Angry Birds last year. You can't really see it, but that's me in an Angry Bird suit. And that's my son in Angry Birds, which Angry Birds Star Wars. So I thought that was appropriate. Angry Birds Star Wars game was fun. So yes, we went to a Comic-Con. We went to a comic convention together dressed as Angry Birds. And then, yes, we had an Angry Bird suit for my wife who would not let me use her picture, and my other son. So we had 4 Angry Birds. We were all dressed up as an Angry Bird family for Halloween. I mentioned that Ken be interested as a podcaster, there's an app called Boss Jock, and with the iRig MicCast, what's the beauty of this is you can record on your iPhone with this app, and this app allows you to export as MP3 file. So what this lets you do is you can podcast 100% from your iPhone, and I actually did it at a presentation. I did a recording and uploaded part of that recording with someone from the audience and got it up on my feed live right while I was on stage. And it's a really nice little app, and it lets you put in the information. If you have a Libsyn account, Libsyn actually has a folder called QuickCast, and you upload it to your QuickCast folder, and it goes instantly live on your feed. It pulls your ID3 tag information for your title and your description. So if anyone podcasts, to me, that was one of the nice things of the past year was being able to do that. And again, the iRig is really nice audio. Now I did that tutorial. I did a tutorial on how to podcast. So if you go to SnapGuide and you look for that podcast from an iPhone, you'll find that it's SnapGuide. SnapGuide's a really neat app. So anyone here use SnapGuide or heard of it? No? What SnapGuide lets you do is create little picture tutorials on how to do things, how to bake this, how to fix that. So if you guys want to do a little tutorial on how to fix something on the Apple II, or how to do, fix a hard drive or notch a CD so you can use it double-sided, or, a disc so you can use it double-sided. SnapGuide is kind of a nice little tutorial, and you do it all right from the iPhone. You take pictures and then put in some stuff. There's even for baking, there's the supplies, so there's a list of what your stuff would be. If it was baking, in my case, it would, it was calling out the iRig MicCast and the Boss Jock app. But this is I like this app. I think they did a really good job on it. It is free.
What does it create? An app?
It's a tutorial. It creates a tutorial.
In what format?
That you can see on the web or on their app also. And as an example, I've put this up. I've had this viewed 4,000 times, how to podcast from an iPhone. That's a lot of views for podcasting from an iPhone. Really niche. And they have how to make sushi and how to do this. So it's SnapGuide. Just go through and you'll see different tutorials. A lot of them make you hungry. So be around food before you read them. And then, of course, jailbreaking, because 900,000 apps are just not enough. One of my favorite ones is this app here, which shows you, it's called, I think it's AppStat. AppStat. It shows you how many times you've opened different apps over a period of time. So you can see I go to Mail and Safari and my stocks a lot. Now, not because I'm checking the FU stock all the time. It's because I usually go there to find news on Apple. I go to the Apple stock, and that's where I find news for my podcast. But the phone, calculator, podcasts, clock, it's just interesting when you actually look down the apps that I use the most, it seems to be almost all, they're all Apple stock apps. Even though I use a lot of other apps, it happens to be the top 8 are their apps, which again was why I said earlier, a lot of what most people are going to see are the Apple apps. It would have been embarrassing, like, to have Candy Crush up there in the top 8. Yeah. Common apps that people use, I've talked about some of these before. AppStat was the one I just mentioned that's new, which apps you use the most. XCon, it makes you look like you're not jailbroken, which is important because you use XCon with another one, which is the other one? 3G Unrestrictor, and then that lets you stream Netflix. So there's certain apps won't open up if they think your phone is jailbroken. So you use this one, XCon, to make those apps think you're not jailbroken, and then you can use other stuff to get around, like I said, like Netflix. 5-icon dock, backgrounder, apps run in the background, which now finally iOS 7 is going to be better about that. Screen splitter, Camera on the computer, again, that's for older guys. This is the one feature in iOS 7 that they didn't add, and I wish they would have. I was really hoping it would have been iOS 7, which is where you could password protect specific apps. I still think that's a big feature missing in iOS. Hopefully, Apple adds that back sometime, or not adds it back, but adds it sometime in the future. It just seems like it would make sense. I just don't know why Apple doesn't allow you to just put a password on an app, so when you tap on it, it won't open unless you have the password. Resources, I download blog, which is about a lot to do with jailbreaking. iMore is a good one. My podcast, macOS Ken, is a really good podcast. iPhone Hacks, Redmond Pi, the iPhone dev team, if you're into jailbreaking, those guys are on the jailbreak side. All right, we'll end it there. Questions?
That last ad, the big watching service ads, because it looks like almost the same thing.
Well, no, this.
They probably didn't.
I mean, it's like they watched a Surface ad and got high on crack and then designed it. Yeah, I mean, the Surface ad was at least some artistically done. I mean, but that is like, wow, okay, someone smoked something.
Have you evaluated any AirPlay speakers?
I have not yet, no.
What's your spin on why all the Apple hating in the press?
Jealous Android fanboys. Actually what it really is, I really believe it is, it's about revenue. It's about making money at the news sites. You put up an article that says Samsung sales went down in the quarter. No one cares. You put up an article that says Apple went down, and you get everybody there. You get the Apple haters and the Apple lovers, and they just all want to just beat each other up in the comment section. So I really think it's come down to that people realize they drive traffic by talking negatively about Apple, and that is a good part of it. And then the others is some of them are just idiots.
A lot of it has to do
Yeah, I mean,
with the problems are in economy on the internet too. You pay for all the hits, even if there's stupid hits.
Right. It's about taking eyeballs to an article and having CPC, having the ads all around there, and people getting off on that. But you look at what some of these analysts say, and it's just they're crazy. I mean, they're crazy speak. Apple is a strong company financially, $146 billion in the bank. They're not hurting in any way, shape, or form. So, I mean, Apple's doing well. And they'll be doing well. And I think you're going to see a lot of new products. I think this year, the new iPhone my prediction, the new iPhone, it'll come out. It'll be September 20th. It'll be that Friday, September 20th, most likely. I think based on what Apple said in their call yesterday, financials, it's going to have to be in September. It could be September 13th, but I don't think it'll be any later than September 20th. I think 28th is the end of their quarter. So they have to have a good week in there of shipments. And I think you'll see the iPhone 5S, and you'll see the new lower cost iPhone. Maybe the newer lower cost iPhone probably won't ship right away, but I think the 5S will ship right away. And then sometime in the October frame, you'll see new iPad minis and maybe an iWatch.
You talked a bit about the negative Apple press and their stock price going down. Everyone's all negative on Apple. What is the likelihood that the management at Apple said, let's drive the stock price down so we can buy back more, and we don't have to pay out as much dividends when the stock price is down? We buy back a bunch of stock when it's cheap. We announce a bunch of stuff in the fall, the stock price goes up, but we still don't have to pay out a whole lot of dividends because we bought back a bunch of stock.
I don't think they would ever plan that. I mean, it sure sounds like it makes for a good Robert Ludlum novel. I mean, but yeah, considering what they went through with the whole ebook thing, where they were, they didn't do anything wrong and they're getting beat up, that would be a really bad thing. So yeah, I don't think Tim Cook worries too much about Apple stock price. I think he worries more about having 93 and 97% customer satisfaction numbers. I think that's what drives him. And I think he realizes that as long as those numbers are up, it doesn't matter what someone's saying in the press. It doesn't matter that half the articles that came out since the last quarter all mention iPad sales dropping. The fact that they don't mention anywhere in the article that, yeah, but inventory change makes it less than of a drop and there was nothing new. I think there was some frustration, though, in the WWDC event from Phil Schiller when he said, kiss my ass, comment, which was great. If anyone saw the WWDC when he announced, he said, can't innovate my ass. That was what it, can't innovate my ass was his line. So that was clearly bugging him, but I don't think I've seen anything from Tim that shows him frustrated yet with the press.
Well, why the flattening of the interface?
I think it was not invented here syndrome by Johnny Ive versus Scott Forstall.
Okay.
I think Johnny Ive in his mind had it set, didn't like the green felt, didn't like the yellow notebook, didn't like the reel-to-reel, thought they were superfluous, not needed, and he just wanted to change. And honestly, it was long in the tooth. I mean, last year I came up here and said iOS 6, it's new. Nothing exciting. There really wasn't anything exciting in iOS 6. I mean, I went back, I watched the video, and when I came to the video and I said, really nothing exciting. And last year, people for iOS 5, they were buying versions of iOS 5 from developers. I go, why would you do that with iOS 6? Not worth it. This year, again, people are buying beta versions of iOS 7. I don't recommend it. I still tell people don't upgrade until it's a full version. Definitely don't upgrade your wife's machine. I learned that last year, until it's ready. But I think iOS 7 would be nice. I have shown it to my wife. She likes it. I've shown it to my mom, and they thought it looked nice. But when you have 97% of people that like the old way and you make a radical change, you better hit on all. They gotta hit it right. I mean, when it's launched in September, it better be ready for prime time. Because they got beat up last year with Maps, which I think was a little unfair. I mean, Maps wasn't perfect, but it wasn't nearly as bad as the press made it out to be. But this time you're talking about, their daily interaction with iOS 7 and their iOS device. And Maps, you kind of used it maybe, but you had an alternative. With iOS 7, there's no alternative. And once you put that on the phone, man, that's it. You're done. Okay, I know you got more, so... oh, yes?
When you were going along, you were reviewing the Kickstarter accessories, you didn't talk about the Polaroid box. You see that one?
No, there's a...
It's this thing that after you take a picture with the iPhone, you put it face down on this box, and then a picture comes out on the bottom.
I hadn't seen that one, no. There are some crazy ones in Kickstarter. And if you listen to my show every week, I try to do a Kickstarter Indiegogo project, at least one or more, and I try to talk about them. There's so many that come out that are really good. So yeah, hope you guys listen to my podcast. But definitely listen to Today and Mac OS Ken's another really good one. If you want daily updates, Ken's is really good. All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.